If it's 1980s B movies you seek, then you've come to the right channel, as this time we're looking into Night of the Comet. Released in 1984, this most bodacious apocalypse romp is kind of like Mad Max and Dawn of the Dead if you put them in a blender, as it tells the story of Reggie, a youth who works at a local cinema theatre and takes her video game scores very seriously. But while all that goes on, a comet passes Earth and literally wipes out 90% of the population, reducing the people to dust. Yeah, eat your heart out, Thanos. Where Reggie and her more naive sister Samantha find that they are one of very few survivors left in the city, where they encounter terrifying comet-affected zombies, along with seedy shopping mall gangs and dodgy scientists. This movie has everything that lovers of carefree B movies have come to expect, along with a cult status of fans who just can't get enough of it. But hey, let's face it, some of the best movies out there aren't necessarily the mainstream ones. Night of the Comet is, like many other movies I discuss on this show, a fun, cheesy movie which should have more exposure, but for some reason is under the radar. Well, today, because so many people have been asking me, we're going to look into 10 amazing facts about Night of the Comet. So let's embrace the apocalypse and check it out.
See, this is the problem with these things. Daddy would have gotten us Uzis.
The car didn't know the difference.
Number 10. Ashes to ashes, brick dust to brick dust. So after the comet goes by, it causes most of the world's population to be wiped out. To which we see those who were killed by the comet's apocalyptic douchebaggery have now been reduced to dust. Or as the scientists in the movie puts it, calcium dust.
Calcium dust.
However, in order to create the quote-unquote calcium dust, the production team obviously didn't use real-life remains, but it was in fact brick dust, hence the sort of reddish tinge the dust has. It goes to show that sometimes in order to achieve certain special effects, you don't need big, lavish, expensive effects, but just a couple of good old bricks will do the trick. And then you will get your calcium dust.
Calcium dust.
Number 9. The movie influenced Buffy. Night of the Comet's writer and director Tom Eberhardt wanted the movie to focus on strong independent female leads. Two young females who are otherwise considered valley girls, who get put into an extraordinary supernatural situation where their sheer badassery must take over, where we see them fight all kinds of villainy and monsters. Writer and director Joss Whedon took that concept as inspiration for his own creation, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I think it especially shows in the original Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie, which came out in 1992. However, when this concept was rebooted in the late 90s for the Buffy the Vampire Slayer TV show, Buffy became a huge pop cultural phenomenon which has a large number of adoring fans even to this day. I guess there's an irony that Night of the Comet isn't really all that well known in mainstream, but the story that it influenced has become a huge successful franchise enterprise. Number 8. A Nightmare on Comet Street. All lovers of horror know exactly who Heather Landon Camp is, thanks to her iconic role as Nancy from the horror movie masterpiece A Nightmare on Elm Street, where she totally owned the role and gave the movie great heart. However, Heather originally had her eye on the role of Samantha for Night of the Comet. Even though she auditioned for the part, the role was given to Kelly Maroney, who horror fans may also recognise from Chopping Mall. Now, here's the thing. Both Night of the Comet and Nightmare on Elm Street were released in 1984 at round about the same time, which means their productions probably took place at the same time, which means had Langdon Camp landed the role of Samantha in Night of the Comet, she probably would not have starred as Nancy in A Nightmare on Elm Street. And because Langdon Camp's performance was such an important part of the success of A Nightmare on Elm Street, had a different actress been cast in the part of Nancy, it might have made A Nightmare on Elm Street a completely different movie, and dare I say it, maybe not as good. I guess some things just happen for a reason, and Heather not getting the part in Night of the Comet led to the success of A Nightmare on Elm Street. So, really it was a good thing that she was rejected for the role of Samantha. Number 7, original title. The movie was originally going to be called Teenage Comet Zombies, to which I have to say, oh my god, are you freaking kidding me? That's an awesome name! Why wasn't that one used? Seriously, that's an awesome title, and one that is definitely memorable and stands out and kind of lets you know exactly what you're in for and really goes with the movie's B-movie feel, whereas Night of the Comet doesn't really lead much to what the movie is about. In fact, if I didn't know about this movie, I would think it's a disaster movie like Armageddon or Deep Impact, where a comet is heading for Earth and the humans try to find a way to stop it and or survive. Often in this show, I talk about names that movies nearly got stuck with, but thank God were changed to the titles that we all know and love. But this has to be a rare occasion where I say, nope, I think the rejected name is actually a better name. I mean, just listen to it. Teenage Comet Zombies. That's awesome. Even though to everyone else this movie is Night of the Comet, deep in my heart, it'll always be Teenage Comet Zombies. Number 6. Shopping mall location. As mentioned, this movie does have a Dawn of the Dead feel about it, what with its use of zombies and the apocalypse. And just like Dawn of the Dead, it also features a shopping mall, in which we see sisters Reggie and Samantha have fun in the deserted complex while grabbing some freebies. I mean, come on, who wouldn't do that? Even 28 Days Later, as dark and as serious as that was, still had a scene of our zombie apocalypse survivors joyfully raiding a shop. However, the shopping centre used for Night of the Comet was the Sherman Oak Galleria, located in California, which seemed to be the go-to shopping centre when it came to making movies, as the mall was also used for Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Commando, Valley Girl, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, and of course Chopping Mall, of which the director of that movie really likes me. Okay, that's a lie, he actually doesn't really like me much at all. The mall was opened in 1980, however in recent years filming doesn't really seem to take place there anymore, as the last movie to feature scenes from the Galleria was 2011's Crazy Stupid Love. Number 5, the movie's budget. Night of the Comet was surprisingly made for a mere $700,000. However, director Eberhardt wasn't happy that the movie got stuck with such a low budget, and claimed that the production company that produced the movie, Atlantic Releasing Corporation, just didn't understand the movie, or at least his vision. So much so that they initially didn't want him to direct, and several creative clashes took place during the making of the movie between Eberhardt and the movie's producers Andrew Lane and Wayne Crawford. And assuming Wikipedia is a reliable source of information, even during the production several attempts were made to have Eberhardt replaced. Atlantic saw Night of the Comet as a way of capitalising on both the new age teen movie trend of Valley Girl and a new trend of drive-in movies thanks to Repo Man. But it seems that Eberhardt saw it as something different other than cashing in on popular genres, and saw it as its own thing. In cases like Night of the Comet, I think the movie's low budget actually benefits the movie, as it adds to that desirable B-movie vibe that we all seem to love. Because the movie was made on the cheap, they had to be more ambitious with their effects, which by all accounts often leads to interesting effects. Number 4, potential sequel and TV series. Director Eberhardt was keen to make a sequel to Night of the Comet as early as when the movie came out, but due to complications of ownership, there was ambiguity over who actually owned the rights to Night of the Comet, which turned out to be Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer. Eberhardt also claims that he intended on making a TV show based on Night of the Comet and even an animated series. As he explains, the movie itself was cartoony. Sadly though, a sequel never took place, with no word of anything further developing out of Night of the Comet. When asked why exactly nothing further has happened and why a sequel never took place, Eberhardt said, quote, "Rights, interest, money, but mostly rights." All I have to say is someone make this sequel before the damn thing gets remade. And an animated series would be good too. Number 3, the movie was a financial hit. Considering the movie was only made for $700,000 and was only considered a cheap B movie, it actually did pretty well when it first came out. It opened up to 3rd place and would go on to make $14.4 million. And the financial growth of the movie would continue to grow with the home media VHS format. However, keep in mind the movie was released 1 week after the hugely popular A Nightmare on Elm Street. So to make that kind of money, all things considering, is pretty impressive. The movie even got pretty good reviews from critics, with the New York Times describing it as, quote, "a good-natured end-of-the-world B movie," and other critics compared it to the works of Day of the Triffids and The Omega Man. So it begs to ask the question, with all the money it made and the pretty decent reviews the movie got, why didn't the sequel happen again? Number 2, movie poster doorway. So it's that part of the show again that you all like, where I talk about the movie's poster. And Night of the Comet's poster to me is just, well, weird. It just looks so plain and doesn't excite me, and the colour scheme looks so bland. The zombies at the top don't stand out, and there is so much empty nothingness. And equally baffling, it shows what I'm assuming to be the Reggie character entering a doorway in space. That makes no sense. I mean, it never even happens in the movie. It almost looks like she's walking into another dimension or something.
Duh, well, actually, Minty, I think that's supposed to be a reference to the Twilight Zone intro. You know how the door is floating around in space.
Even if Squiggles is right, I still don't see the connection with Night of the Comet and the Twilight Zone. But oh well, when the movie was released on DVD, it got a much better and more fitting cover art. But damn, what's going on with Catherine Mary Stewart's face here? She's pulling the same face I pull when someone tells me pineapple does belong on pizza. I bet my comment section is now going to be full of angry people telling me that pineapple does belong on pizza.
Well, Minty, you brought it on yourself. Don't come looking for me to get you out of trouble.
Number 1. Real-life teenagers set the tone for the movie. In order to get an understanding of what an apocalypse situation involving teenage girls would be like, director Eberhardt actually spoke to young female teenagers in order to get an understanding of how they would react. He did so while filming other projects, and the consensus he got was surviving the apocalypse would actually be fun and adventurous. This is probably what set the movie's tone, making it less serious and more lighthearted, and even comic book-like, as the movie is seen through the eyes of teenagers. Because let's face it, at that age you probably are less likely to focus on the severity of the situation, and instead go have fun raiding a local mall. Well guys, that was my amazing facts of Night of the Comet. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you haven't seen this movie, then by all means go out and watch it. It's got all that awesome 80s B-movie cheese that people just can't seem to get enough of these days. Anyway, I'm Minty, and if you ever see a comet in the sky, don't just stand around in the street, take cover or the zombies will get you. See ya.